I want you all to think back to when you were 8 years old. Your friends and family are gathering for Thanksgiving dinner. Your siblings are laughing, your parents are smiling, they're enjoying. But you're not. Because you live in a world of silence. Your uncle cracks a hilarious joke that causes your cousin to laugh so hard he spills milk out of his nose. But wait, what was the joke? You lean to the left and ask the person sitting next to you, only to be told, it's not important. I'll tell you later. So what do? Phase 1. You pretend to follow along in conversations with fake laughs and smiles. Phase 2. You get tired of faking your emotions and slowly begin to separate yourself from the table. Phase 3. You escape reality completely and immerse yourself into a world of your own imagination. This is my story, and this is the story of millions of deaf and hard of hearing children all over the world today. I lost most of my hearing at the age of 3 and gradually became deaf over a span of 5 years. A healthy form of communication did not exist with my friends and family. I missed out on the daily conversations, the back and forth jokes, and the friendships formed out of such bonding episodes. And even though I looked all right on the outside, my internal suffering remained invisible to most. My language and learning abilities were hindered compared to those of my peers. I felt lonely. I felt like something was missing. A human connection. But all of this changed when I started learning ASL at the age of 12. The very first thing I learned in ASL was the sign for I love you. It's a simple sign that combines the letters I, L, and Y. And this sign alone was enough to convince me that this new visual language with its own complex grammatical structure was indeed a beautiful language. For the first time in my life, I interacted with people like me that relied on the visual rather than on the auditory. Through sign language, I was granted equal access to education. I felt like I was part of a community. I finally felt a human connection. A world that was once black and white to me slowly became colorful. About 3 years ago, my baby cousin Julius lost all of his hearing to meningitis. Hey Julius, I'm speaking to you. Sign language is beautiful. There's a wonderful community with a rich and vibrant culture that awaits you. You may grow up feeling different, but that doesn't matter because you are worthy. Julius inspired me to start Signs for Humanity, a social media initiative with a simple goal: to spread awareness of the beauty of sign language. A few months ago, I created a video on Facebook where I taught 10 signs that every parent should teach their babies, whether they are hearing or deaf. These signs allow for babies to communicate effectively with their parents nearly 6 months before being able to even speak. And the response was phenomenal. The video had over 4 million views and thousands of reactions. So many parents were supportive of their hearing babies learning signs to communicate early on, and that's nice. But deaf babies and children are not taught sign language. What's up with that? Around 90% of deaf babies are born into hearing families. The harsh reality is that parents tend to look at their deaf children and panic. Of course, they want the best for their children, and are oftentimes advised to force their deaf child to learn how to speak and listen, to be normal. Even when doing so, is detrimental to the child's critical period of language development and acquisition. But listen to this. Deafness is not the limitation. The limitation is the lack of awareness in today's society about deaf culture and deaf gain. Society tells us that we are broken. Society tells us that we need to be fixed. Society tells us that if you cannot hear, you can't be successful. Let me tell you what we should do instead. Let's talk about 2 individuals, Edgar and Maribel Pinedo. Their 6-year-old son, EJ, was born deaf. They knew nothing about deaf culture and nothing at all about the deaf community. But nevertheless, they sought to be educated. Their story is powerful and can be illustrated as follows. Instead of forcing our child to be part of our hearing community, let us try to cultivate a community around him with sign language. Let us foster him with the love, support, and access to language that he needs to be successful in life. Let us lead by example and show him that he can accomplish anything he wants in the world. Because in our eyes, he is not disabled. He is differently abled. Did you know that there are millions of deaf people out there in the world that use some form of sign language unique to their location and culture? Millions of people out there in the world that can communicate from afar, underwater, and even through windows. Millions of people out there that are living their daily lives like you and I, striving for greatness. Hey, let me tell you something. The innate beauty of sign language is that it allows for us to express ourselves with our hands, face, and body in a creative three-dimensional way. It provides a medium of effective and meaningful communication not only for the deaf, but for our friends on the autism spectrum, and for our friends with Down syndrome and cerebral palsy. Sign language is my superpower. It gave me the opportunity to increase my knowledge of the world and to form meaningful human connections. I want you to know that sign language impacts the lives of millions of people around the world. I want you to know that it's important to empower one another. I want you to know that we're not broken. We're bonded together by this beautiful language and unique culture. As I prepare to walk off this stage, I need you all to understand that we are all the leaves of one tree and the drops of one ocean. It's time for us to use our superpowers to soar through the skies together and advance humanity farther than we have ever imagined.